7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, hail to the king! Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening live here to BlackSquirrelRadio.com. I'm your host, Brandon Lewis. Welcome to Brandon's World. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. Show is shortened today by 11:30. I got to be somewhere by noon, so we're going to jump right into it today. In 10 minutes, I'm going to bring in Michael Reiner. He is sitting right across the table from me, but I told him, I said, give me 10 minutes today to kind of give you guys my monologue. I got some stats here. I got some stuff that I want to go over before I bring in Michael. Michael's a big Steelers fan, as you guys know, so we're going to talk Antonio Brown and all the stuff going on in Pittsburgh. We're going to talk about wrestling as well, because Fastlane is tomorrow at the Quicken Loans Arena. We got Kent State men's basketball going to the Q next week. I will be at the Q for the first time in 5 years. There may be a trivia question later, so remember that. And we got a lot of stuff to get to today. But first, let me tell you, I wrote the breaking news article yesterday for BSR. The Browns got Olivier Vernon. They basically swapped 4th and 5th round picks with the Giants for him and Kevin Zeitler. Now, I know a lot of people are like, they don't want the move because the Browns already have a good defense. And, there's now a hole on the right side of the offensive line. Look, I love the move. And again, I have not been very nice to John Dorsey. I haven't been in love with John Dorsey as many other people have been in Cleveland. But I love this move. I think you add another pass rusher who can play a 3-4 and a 4-3, really, because he can be a stand-up linebacker or he can play down at defensive end. He could be the Jamie Collins replacement if they don't want to move off of Emmanuel Ogbah. If they do, then I think he slides over to left end. And I do like the move for the Browns. Now, I know a lot of people are worried about Austin Corbett because I do think if the Browns don't sign a free agent, he's going to end up moving over to right guard. But this is what I've always felt about guards, is that if you don't blitz, you can somewhat hide a guard. It's not like a tackle. A tackle is normally outside on an island. With interior linemen, you can double team somewhat against a 4-man pass rush with the center or another tackle when you slide the line. So Corbett, to me, he's going to be fine. I think he'll be durable. In Philly, we have a guy named Isaiah Samalu who 2 years ago couldn't block a pillowcase, and now he just got a 3-year extension. It's development. I think Corbett's going to be okay. I think he'll be suitable. And I think the Browns' offensive line is okay. I think there's some depth chart purposes that need to be addressed. But we still got a long time to go with that. But I do love the Vernon move because I think it adds just another piece to their defense. Now, my Eagles, I kind of teased this a little bit on Twitter. I think Howie Roseman is making a big move in free agency. I think there is evidence because they have opened up just this week. Now, let me remind you what they did. They cut Timmy Jernigan. Now, Jernigan, I would have let him bring back, but his salary cap number was too high, and he was injured all last year, pretty much, only playing a couple games. And, we traded Michael Bennett yesterday to New England. I was flipping out. Oh, Michael Bennett, why'd you get rid of Michael Bennett? He was 33 years old. He wanted more money. Look, this guy, from what I've been reading, he wasn't loved in the Philly locker room, which is really tight. Okay. I love Michael Bennett. He could play at the end and D-tackle. But he wanted starter money, and he wasn't starting on this team. And the end. That's the way I look at it. We get a 5th rounder in 2020 from New England. We have to give up a 2027, which to me is nothing. It's a salary cap dump, and I think that we can get younger by getting rid of Bennett. Now, we also restructured the contracts of Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, and Isaiah Samalu. And, I think there's potential here for Howie Roseman to go ahead and get Le'Veon Bell. I'm hearing Tevin Coleman is on the radar. Now, I would like that move because I feel like if they get either Tevin Coleman or Duke Johnson from the Browns, of course, we've heard Duke Johnson's on the trade block, I feel like that they could be the heir apparent to Darren Sproles. Don't know if Sproles is going to be back. If he does, he can kind of mentor them. But if not, those guys can just step in. I don't love investing in the running back position, but I think it's potential here for Howie Roseman to go after somebody like a Le'Veon Bell. I think my main priority would be going to re-sign Jordan Hicks. He's a free agent. I think the problem with that is, Hicks, he's a Chip Kelly draftee. So, with this regime and Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson, don't know if he's going to be back, but I think that's the one hole the Eagles have right now is at linebacker. And if they can kind of shore that up, and if they can get a little bit of help in the run game, I think the Birds will be back in 2019. This was a surprise for me that the Rams, they ended up releasing a good inside linebacker, Mark Barron. Now, if Jordan Hicks doesn't come back in Philadelphia, I would love to see Mark Barron in Philadelphia. But they did sign Eric Weddle. So they're going all in on their secondary. We know their defense wasn't the problem in the Super Bowl, though. But their defense just got more stacks. So, we'll see. I think the Rams are primed for another good year. This was a shock to me out of Baltimore. So they re-signed tight end Nick Boyle, but they released C.J. Mosley. Like, how are you going to let C.J. Mosley, your best defensive player, walk out the door? Jerome Sims getting older. He's still productive. They still have Upshaw. He's pretty good. But they're pretty much letting C.J. Mosley free, and they could re-sign him like the Eagles did with Nigel Bradham last offseason. But if C.J. Mosley goes somewhere else, that's a big blow for Baltimore's defense, and they're getting older, by the way. Now, here's some notes on some guys that have not been tagged. Giants, Landon Collins. Patriots, Trey Flowers. Patriots, Dwayne Allen. Patriots, Stephen Kitakowski. Patriots, Trent Brown. Those are guys that have not been tagged. Guys that have been cut. Jaguars, cut Ashawn Gibson, Malik Jackson, and Carlos Hyde. Those were all surprises to me from Jacksonville. I heard Nick Foles go to Jacksonville. I laughed at that. I've been telling you guys this for the last month. Nick Foles going to Jacksonville is going to be a disaster for his career. I don't think Jacksonville is a good fit for him. They don't have an offense. They don't have a receiver. DJ Chark and D.D. Westbrook are literally their only receivers on the roster. How do you think Nick Foles is going to do with that? He's not going to do good. Now, there's some trouble brewing in Dallas where defensive tackle David Irving was smoking marijuana on Instagram Live and said he's quitting football. Again, just another case in my proof that the Cowboys are full of thugs, or that the Dak Prescott's dog bit a woman. That was a story this morning. Also, that DeMarcus Lawrence is intending on not signing his franchise tag, even though Dallas tagged him. So there's stuff brewing in Dallas. Washington replaces Alex Smith with a worse Alex Smith in Case Keenum. The Giants, who knows what they're doing. So this division to me is, it's going to be down between the Eagles and Cowboys. But the Eagles to me right now, and I'm not just saying this as a fan, Philadelphia should be the favorite. I think Dallas will compete for a wild card. But I really do think Philly's back on top next year, somewhere between 10 and 12 wins.
Philly's the pick for the Super Bowl.
Michael just said here that the Eagles are his pick for the Super Bowl. I love it. Michael, you'll be on in about 5 minutes here once I wrap this up. Okay, so we got the coach re-signing Marcus Hunt. He's a defense tackle. They re-signed him for 2 years. That's a good move by them. Michael Steelers, they did re-sign guard Raymond Foster to a 2-year deal. They traded Marcus Gilbert away for basically nothing, a 6th-round pick from Arizona. And then my final news that I want to talk about here before I get to LeBron is Jordan Howard is potentially on the market. Apparently the Eagles have called about Jordan Howard, and apparently it could be a day 3 pick, 4 through 7, that somebody like Philadelphia could trade for Jordan Howard. Our VP of player personnel, Joe Douglas, was in Chicago when they drafted Jordan Howard. I would like that move a lot better than Le'Veon Bell. Cap is a lot cheaper. I've always liked Jordan Howard as a running back. I think if you go out, and this would be my Jaya replacement, basically would be Jordan Howard and then, Tevin Coleman. I think that'd be a really good 1-2 punch for the Birds, along with Corey Coleman, along with Darren Sproles. To me, that's enough production out of the running back position. Before I bring in Michael here, I teased a little bit on Monday. I said, I figured out the LeBron LA Madness. And I thought to myself, I said, there's 3 theories what's going on in LA. And they all a little bit connect to me. Number one, why did they fire Luke Walton? The guy's a joke. Listen, I've seen about 2 Lakers games this year, but I've seen some highlights on Twitter or whatever. Do you guys realize he's playing Lance Stevenson at power forward? He's playing Rondo at like shooting guard. He's got this small lineup where Kyle Kuzma's at center. Like they're getting dominated on the boards. Luke Walton doesn't know what he's doing. He designs post plays for JaVale McGee, who can't shoot 2 feet away. LeBron never endorsed Luke Walton. LeBron wanted Ty Lue to come out after he got fired from Cleveland to come to LA. And Jeannie Buss, who's becoming a worse owner than Dan Gilbert, I can't believe that just came out of my mouth, was like, oh, we need to stay with Luke Walton. You know, Luke's our guy. That's just pride, man. Like, I can't believe she actually said that. Number 2 is LeBron just realized he can't beat Golden State. So why try? Look, the Warriors are going to win the title this year. I think that when LeBron got hurt, their whole mojo went out. And since they came back, they've been terrible. And he's just like, well, why did I have to play Golden State? Why not just rest? Why not get the summer off? Now, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, and I thought about this the other day, if I'm the Lakers, I'm not going after Anthony Davis. I'm going after Kyrie Irving more. And I'm trying to get Kevin Love from Cleveland. I'm trying to rebuild the Cavs, basically. Is what I'm trying to do. And that, to me, is the only way you can save LeBron. And to me, guys, there is a way the Cavs can get Zion Williamson without winning the lottery. Lakers lose their last 17 games. They're in a position for a top 5 pick. I think you guys know where I'm going here. Lakers draft Zion, trade us Zion for Kevin Love. Cavs have, think about this core, Colin Sexton, Zion Williamson, whoever they would draft. To me, and Larry Nance. I think that'd be a good young core. I know it's not realistic, but it's possible. So that's my second theory, again, that LeBron can't beat Golden State. Again, number 1 is he quit on Luke Walton. Number 3 is he's in the twilight of his career. He spent 8 straight years in the NBA Finals, and he's just given up. I think there's a potential LeBron could retire in the next 2-3 years. I don't think LeBron really cares that much about basketball anymore. I put him a poll this week, and I was shocked at how many people actually voted for this. But I put him a poll this week, and I said, well, what's more likely to happen right now? Either LeBron requests a trade back to Cleveland, or the Lakers make the playoffs. And 85% of you said LeBron getting requested a trade back to Cleveland. I was shocked at how many of you said that. I didn't think anybody was going to say that, but that was one of my ideas that I thought of, was, hey, LeBron could request a trade, to be honest. Well, LeBron, maybe he did think that this Lakers team was going to be better. I thought this Lakers team was going to be better. I like the development of Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma. So, to me, there's just a bunch of drama with LeBron. I wouldn't play him the rest of the year. I think the Lakers are completely out of the mix now, and I'm shocked. There will be no Zero Dark 30 this year, which I'm deeply disappointed in. If you guys don't know what Zero Dark 30 is, it's when LeBron goes on the social media hiatus every postseason. I have done the same. During the last 3 years, I have not been on social media. I don't know what Twitter's like in May. I haven't been on Twitter in May since 2015. Okay, and I've been thinking about just doing one this year for the heck of it because I need to clear my mind. I think social media is going crazy right now, and it really shouldn't be. But I think it's interesting the fact that the Cavs are having more fun right now than the Lakers and Celtics. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate what Magic and Genie and Rob Pelinka have done to LeBron. It's unfortunate to me they wasted the GOAT's first season in Los Angeles. Yes, I do believe LeBron's the GOAT. I mean, the freaking king carried Jeff Green and all these bums to the finals last year. That's what I look at. He carried all these bums to the finals last year. He came back 3-1 on Golden State. 2015, he carried Matthew Dellavedova to 6 games. LeBron's the best overall basketball player I've ever seen. Michael Jordan didn't have to worry about passing the ball. Michael Jordan didn't have to worry about rebounding the ball. Michael Jordan could just flat out shoot the ball. That's why he averaged 35 points a night and could play defense, because he had great defenders around him. LeBron has no defenders around him. LeBron's putting up 29, 10, and 10, and they're getting blown out by 20 against Denver. It's not fair to LeBron. It's not fair to his base. It's not fair to me, who wants to watch the greatest player in the world. It's not fair to the NBA. I'm sure the NBA doesn't like this. I'm sure they probably love it, actually, because it means the Warriors are going to cakewalk to the finals. We all need to pray. We all need to lay down for the Golden State Warriors, because that's what the NBA wants. But probably at the end of the day, they don't want the fact that LeBron's not in it because it makes marketing easy. LeBron going to get swept in the first round by Golden State. Not going to happen this year. Playoffs in the NBA are going to feel weird. The East is wide open, but nobody in the East is too good. And the NBA has been boring. It's been a very boring season. Don't give me this Paul George and James Harden MVP. It's such a good season. They're going to be eliminated in the second round, folks. They're going to be eliminated in the second round. I don't want to hear it. With that being said, let me bring him in. Michael Reiner, as I would call him, my WWE analyst / sports analyst. He hosts MitchNMike with Mitch Myers, right?
Yes, on Monday night, 10 to 12, in Brandon Lewis. It is a beautiful day in Kent, Ohio, and woo! Man, I got to tell you, what's causing all this, man? We've got some sunny weather out here. I mean, times in L.A. aren't so sunny for LeBron as we were just listening to you, but talk a little bit about how your weekend's been going.
Oh, man, this week has been very stressful. Not going to lie, to be honest, if I didn't have this show today, I would have no motivation to wake up. It's just been a crazy week. But hey, just grinding it out, man, for the last 2 weeks as we head into spring break. But we got a lot of stuff to get to today, Michael. I want to kick it off with this, if you don't mind. We have a situation where Antonio Brown basically said, I am not playing in Buffalo. You had a take last night. You called me on the phone. I couldn't believe this came out of your mouth. Do you want to tell the people what you told me you think Antonio Brown's going to do?
Well, listen, it's just an abomination at this point. I'm sleeping in my bed and I wake up to a text message from my partner today, Brandon Lewis, the leader of Brandon's world. And he texts me and he says, AB is a Buffalo Bill. And I'm thinking, what? So I get on my Facebook feed. I figure out that the NFL has posted that Antonio Brown has been sent to the Buffalo Bills. And it turns out the reports from Ian Rappaport were false. And so I call my buddy Brandon and I say, you know what? The amount of bridges that Antonio Brown has burned, I think he's just going to end up retiring. Because he said in that interview with ESPN that he doesn't need the sport of football and that he's not going to go anywhere unless he decides, hey, they're going to give me a max deal. So you know what I think is going to happen? I think it's not going to be Buffalo. I think it isn't going to be Green Bay. I don't think it's going to be Oakland, and I'll get into why it's not going to be Oakland here in 30 seconds or so. But I don't think it's going to be any one of those teams because no one is going to sign a 31-year-old wide receiver to a max deal after his contract expires. And believe me, I think he's a top 10 all-time wide receiver. But I don't think that anybody would want to take on his locker room antics and the fact that he wants a max dollar. So I think he's retiring. But, yeah, I mean, I know that was a pretty shocking take. But where else is he going to go? Is he really going to stay in Pittsburgh for the next couple of years? I would honestly just rather see him walk at this point. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life with my Pittsburgh Steelers. With our tradition that we have, we don't deserve this kind of star to come in to ruin things.
Why do you not think it's going to be Oakland? Because I do think if there's one person that would sign a 31-year-old to a max extension, it would be John Gruden.
Well, I respect John Gruden massively. I actually got the opportunity to meet him about 5-6 years ago before the Steelers-Chiefs Monday night game. And based on his treating of Khalil Mack and how he shipped him off to Chicago Bears in the offseason last season, I don't think that he would take on a guy that plays a lesser role and a guy that's older than Khalil Mack. I don't think he would want to take that kind of guy on. And the Steelers would have to ask for a first-round pick because the Raiders have 3 first-round picks. If you try to negotiate with Oakland and you don't get a first-round pick, this trade is a failure to me. Because, as I've told you before on this show, the Steelers' biggest need is a linebacker. It is somebody who's able to help the team get off the field on third down to protect the middle of the field, and we don't have that now because of Ryan Shazier. So I don't think that the Raiders in their rebuilding stage as they head over to Vegas would be willing to give up that first-round pick for Antonio Brown, so I wouldn't part with him. I wouldn't, you know what? I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't be into it with that third or fourth round pick because I would want multiple picks over multiple years. And one thing that I want to disagree with you about, Brandon, is the idea that 6th-round picks don't mean anything. Listen, Richard Sherman was a 6th-round pick. Antonio Brown out of the MAC, Central Michigan, he was a 6th-round pick. So I believe that 6th-round picks are valuable, but at the end of the day, Steelers are in a position where they have to win now. The Browns are getting better. The Ravens' defense is always strong, and I believe that in order for the Steelers to really make a shake-up and to really get the most out of this, they have to get a top pick. If not, I might as well just let him walk on this one. Because we're not going to trade him to a contender in the AFC. Have him retire.
See, now, this is where, I do think that 4th and 5th round picks can be somewhat valuable. I think when you get to the later 5th round, the 6th and the 7th round, I think it's more about luck and scouting more than it is valuable picks. Because, I mean, as we know, 2/3 of your roster is filled out on day 3. So, yes, there are gems that you can find. For example, we found Avonte Maddox last year in Philly. But to me, it's more about luck more than it is on skill at that point, because you're just taking a flyer on the guy and hoping he works out.
Well, and historically, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been the best wide receiver drafting team in the NFL, probably since the beginning of the NFL merger with the
AFL.
AFL, yes. They've been the best wide receiver drafting team since that time period back in the 70s. I mean, you had Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, Hines Ward, Santonio Holmes, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Antonio Brown. I mean, really we're the best wide receiving drafting team in the NFL. So I'm not worried about replacing the wide receiver spot. Because if a guy from Central Michigan, and I'm not talking poorly about the MAC, but if a guy from Central Michigan could bust his butt and get out there and become a star in this league, any wide receiver can from that kind of, a middle of the road kind of program and conference. Any kind of wide receiver can make that happen. So that's not something that I worry about. I'm not somebody who would draft a wide receiver in the first couple rounds of the draft. But as far as I know, the Steelers need linebackers. The Steelers need to return to that physical brand of football that we saw 10 years back. And at the end of the day, it has to do with all kinds of facets within the organization. It has to do with Ben Roethlisberger for running his mouth on Pittsburgh news stations. It has to do with Antonio Brown for years doing things that are unethical in the locker room. And it has to do with Kevin Colbert, the Rooneys, and Mike Tomlin for putting up with it. At the end of the day, this whole drama that's been going on ever since the Steelers lost to Jacksonville last year in the postseason has been absolutely awful, and it doesn't represent the culture of what the Steelers actually are. They need to find a linebacker who is a selfless player, who is really about Steeler Nation, that blue-collar work ethic, and could really resonate with the fans. And the last player that I could think that was at that time was Troy Polamalu. He was the Steelers, okay? He was the most ruthless competitor, the most scary defensive player for a 10-year stretch in the NFL. I mean, you had Ray Lewis and you had Ed Reed, but other than that, it was Troy Polamalu. So I believe that in the draft, if the Steelers do not get a linebacker, defensive threat, a kid with a good head on his shoulders, they're in trouble because Big Ben can only go so far. And back to your Olivier Vernon talk, I love that pick because at the end of the day, the key to the Browns' success over the Steelers is you got to stop number 7. You got to stop the outlaw Big Ben Roethlisberger, the last old schooler left in the game, the most physically branded quarterback probably of the modern era, Ben Roethlisberger. Ben has been undefeated at Heinz Field against the Browns in his career, and I think he only has, 2 to 3 losses plus the tie in Cleveland in 15 years' time. So, in my opinion, it's all about physicality, and I believe linebackers play a more important role than, say, these skill positions. So I believe that's what the Steelers need to do. Trade to get the first-round pick with Oakland because all other bridges are severed and go from there. But if you can't get it, just let them walk at this point.
See, I've always believed that on defense, I am dedicating. If I had a choice to me, right? I want to get 1 to 2 corners. But other than that, my secondary can be the weak point of my defense. I am dedicating almost all my money that I spend on defense, especially to the front four on the defensive line and to the back four on that front seven with the linebackers. I want a dominating front seven that can stop the run and can stop the pass rush, because this is what I believe. If you force somebody in a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, it doesn't matter how trash your secondary is. If your line can get there, you're going to make it impossible for the offense to move the ball. And that's where I think the Browns are building a really good defense, because they have Garrett. They have Ogunjobi. You know, well, like I said, I think Olivier Vernon's more versatile than what people realize. He could be the Jamie Collins replacement, or he can be down on the line if they decide to move on from Emmanuel Ogbah. But let's say this. Let's say they keep Ogbah. You have Garrett, Ogunjobi, and Ogbah, 3 out of your top 4 D-line. That's serviceable. In your 4-3 linebacking core, you have Kirksey, Schobert, Vernon. That's probably the best linebacking core in football. And then in the secondary, you have your lockdown corner in Denzel Ward. You have a pretty good safety in Demarius Randall. Julius Peppers is developing. He's So the defense looks really strong. And I do like the move of the Browns because, again, as I was describing, I think of guards in football as, if a team doesn't send a blitz, you can kind of hide guards a little bit. Like I was saying, you can pull them, you can double team a little bit with a center or a tackle to some extent. Now, if they're blitzing or if they're sending more people, no matter what, you're going to have it on blocker. So the quarterback needs to know to get rid of the ball fast. Great offensive lines oftentimes also have a weakness, because you can't have 5 A-plus linemen. It's almost impossible. So I think Corbett's going to be serviceable. I think he'll be okay. But yeah, I like the move.
And believe it, Brandon, I fully believe that the Cleveland Browns will definitely win the division in 2019.
Ooh, I don't. I actually think you guys are going to win the division.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I'm not down on Pittsburgh like a lot of people. I love Juju Smith-Schuster. I personally think Juju is a low number 1 to a high 2 receiver. I think your offense is still going to be decent. You got Jesse James still. You got Vance McDonald. Your offensive line's still decent. I mean, you got James Conner, who's a really good running back. On defense, your front seven is still one of the best in football.
Our O-line is still the best in football.
I don't know about the best, but it's definitely in the top 3, top 5.
We've got a Hall of Famer, David DeCastro, in there. But back to what we were talking about. I had the Steelers at the wild card spot, and I think that's basically because it's going to be hard if the Steelers don't have that Antonio Brown to keep them going on 3rd down and to keep them moving the chains. I think it's going to be tough for them to really keep it moving when the Browns are only getting better. I mean, the Browns are keep adding talent, and their maturity is beginning to start move. And Baker Mayfield, he's getting crafted kind of like how Ben Roethlisberger was being crafted in the early years of the Steelers' time. So, in my opinion, I just believe based on defense and based on physicality, the Browns have the best shot because Baker Mayfield can throw better than Lamar Jackson can, and their defense is about as versatile as ever, like you were talking about. The idea that you could have Denzel Ward in the back, you have Olivier Vernon in the middle now. I mean, the key is, can you get to Big Ben? That's the key. Because, I mean, they were able to in Cleveland last time out, but they really should have lost that game because the Steelers blew that one. The Steelers had that game in the bag about 5 times. So you've got to be able to get to Big Ben, especially at Heinz Field, and that's going to be the key. I think that they're going to end up splitting games. I believe the Browns are going to beat the Steelers in Cleveland, and I believe that the Steelers would win a narrow one at home, partly because it's Heinz Field. It's probably the best atmosphere in all of football. So, definitely, Browns win the division. Steelers as the second wild card, and they barely get in because of talent.
See, here's my thing. This expression that they're not going to have Antonio Brown to move the chains. What I personally have called plays and whatever, I mean, youth football, man, whatever. I don't call plays to say, Antonio Brown, you're getting the ball.
Me either.
This is the way I call plays. I say, okay, this is the route. Now, if Antonio Brown's the primary read on that play, if he's open, I'm throwing in the ball. But I never call a play thinking I need to get AB on this player, I need to get Juju. I'm saying, okay, what play is going to beat this coverage? And whoever's on that side is getting the football. So I don't worry about touches as much. I do think that Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm as high on Juju Smith-Schuster probably more than I should. I think he could mold into a number one receiver by the end of the year. And I just like Pittsburgh for some reason. I think that people are underestimating them. I don't think the loss of Le'Veon Bell hurts them. I think James Conner can be just as good as Bell.
Absolutely.
I don't think losing Antonio Brown hurts them that much. I actually think it helps them.
And I would definitely agree. That's why I said that, we just got to get him out of the locker room and regain that culture. But at the same time, Juju's going to be double teamed, so it might be a little bit interesting to see how coverages work with him. But I agree with you about Juju. I mean, the kid is really the gold mine of the NFL. 22 years old, closing speed like no one else in the game today. If he gets the ball and you're in one-on-one coverage, it's game over. I mean, realistically, I completely agree with you from a standpoint of youth, and that might be the most important factor between him and Antonio Brown. One guy's 31, the other guy's 22. Let's put that into perspective, because no matter how great Antonio Brown is, if he's Jerry Rice 2.0, or if he's the second coming of Jerry Rice, I mean, whatever. He's 31 years old. Let's try to get what we can for him, because at the end of the day, he's probably only got 5 or 6 years left.
Well, and that's where I think if you compare the rosters between the Browns and the Steelers, I'm just not there yet with the Browns. And my thing is this. I think they're still a young team. I think they're a year away. I think in 2020 they can win the division, but I have to see how Kitchens works out first. I cannot say definitively right now the Browns are winning the division. I have to wait and see if this Kitchens thing is going to work, because everybody's just assuming Baker Friday, it's going to work. We don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if Steve Wilks is going to be as good as a defensive coordinator, or better or worse as Greg Williams. It's going to be a wait-and-see type deal, and that's why I'm not committed yet to the Browns.
I was real hesitant when the Browns decided to go with Freddie Kitchens over Greg Williams. It just didn't really make much sense. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that if you hire from within, that an NFL head coach really makes that much of a difference. When you fire your one coach and you have an interim and then you're hiring from within, I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. At the end of the day, the players that are still on the field are still the players that are on the field. I mean, you have Baker Mayfield, who's young. You've got Myles Garrett, who's still in his athletic prime. You've got Denzel Ward, who's all over the ball, causing turnovers and making things happen. And that's what I see of the Browns. I see a young core right now that is ready to do damage. They won 7 games.
Could I argue, though, that they were inspired by Greg Williams, and maybe they won't be by Kitchens? Maybe Steve Wilks could rub them the wrong way? I'm just throwing out something, and I don't think it will, but I could argue that point.
Well, I mean, with Steve Wilks, the way that goes, I think it was just Greg Williams wanting a job elsewhere as a head coaching job. But the head scratcher with Steve Wilks is I feel like they could have got guys that were more proven. I think that, once again, Greg Williams is in that conversation. Really, I mean, you could have made offers to other guys. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think you've got to look from a Browns perspective at where this team is at. Not every coach is a Bill Belichick. Not every coach is a Doug Peterson. And at the end of the day, I don't think the head coaching really matters that often. Take, for example, the Steelers.
No, I think coaching matters.
Mike Tomlin is one of the worst game managers in the league, and we still make the playoffs, and we're still a perennial contender because of the players that we have on the football field. Okay? And I believe that as of right now, a full roster to full roster, the Browns might have it over the Steelers. They've got wide receivers, Jarvis Landry and Antonio Callaway. On the defensive side, they've got all these studs that I just mentioned. What else really do you need besides one more guy to instill fear in the rest of the team?
All right,
I heard some rumors about
this.
Sue. I heard some rumors about Ndamukong Suh.
I did too, and to be honest, again, that would be a typical John Dorsey move because John Dorsey takes guys with character problems. I am nervous here with the Browns. I think this locker room is going to turn into a Rams situation from last year. Remember we was talking, the Rams got all these guys. We didn't know how it was going to work. It ended up working great, but we didn't know. This Browns locker room now, Kareem Hunt. You still got Antonio Callaway. Don't forget about the deal with Callaway, where he was a 4th-round pick because of the situation in Florida. He's got baggage. If they bring in Ndamukong Suh, we don't even know if they're going to bring in Odell Beckham. That's probably off the table now. But you're going to have all these guys, and you got Baker Mayfield, who might be the perfect personality for this type of locker room. But it's risky to me. Now, let's do this. Let's run through Browns versus Steelers, position by position. Who do you think has the edge? Let's start with quarterback.
Steelers, obviously.
I agree. Running back.
Let's see. They have Chubb and Kareem Hunt when he gets back. I'll probably take Browns.
I agree. Hold on one second. Let me get the lights back on here.
James Conner is a fantastic, hardworking talent, but at the end of the day, athletically, we just got to make sure that he doesn't get hurt. That's a big deal.
I agree.
So
I'm going to write this down here.
Chubb is definitely a better athletic talent than Conner, I would think. But, Conner puts up better numbers because our offensive line is killer.
Okay, so we said quarterback Pittsburgh, running back Cleveland. Let's do combine. Let's do receivers and tight end, just total receiving. Who would you take, Pittsburgh, Cleveland?
As of right now, we still have Antonio Brown, so I'll pick the Steelers. Fine.
Let's say without Antonio Brown, because he's going to be off the team.
You know what? I'll still take the Steelers because we'll draft them well.
I will too, and I will say this. I will take Juju over every single receiver on the Browns roster right now.
I would think. I mean, Jarvis Landry is more of a slug guy.
I've never been a big fan of Jarvis Landry. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. I will hate on Jarvis Landry to the end of time. I think he's one of the most overrated receivers in football. He caught the most passes 2 years ago. Whatever. That's because Adam Gase screen passes every single play. That's like, he's a good locker room guy. I'm kind of sick of the blessed thing, but I've always been a big believer of, I think he's overpaid. I said it before. I thought you could potentially, this was a thing that I said, and people thought I was crazy for this. You're going to think I'm crazy too. I proposed a Jarvis Landry trade for a first-round pick, and then I would use that first-round pick, trade it to Tennessee for Corey Davis, a young receiver who is a monster that Tennessee didn't know how to use, and he's on a way smaller salary cap than Jarvis Landry. People thought I was nuts, and I was like, well, there's your number one receiver to me. You still have Callaway. You draft another receiver in the draft. That's where I thought the Browns could use the receivers at best. People thought I was crazy for it because I'm just not a fan of Jarvis Landry.
Well, I would definitely have to disagree with you. I think you're crazy, not in principle, about trading Jarvis Landry. I think you're crazy because you're trying to trade a wide receiver for a first-round pick and then trade a first-round pick for a wide receiver. I don't believe that wide receivers are first-round picks unless you are somebody like Amari Cooper. Maybe one first-round pick could be a wide receiver. Think about the amount of wide receivers that actually contribute in the NFL. Lots of them. Many of them.
Okay, but here's my thing. So do you think guys like DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Julio Jones, do you think they'd be worth first-round picks?
Yes, but once again, that's a very small sample size. You're talking about...
No, you're right. But I'm talking about, so but you at least think the top 10 guys, let's say, deserve first-round picks, right?
Yeah, the top 5 wide receivers deserve a first-round pick, absolutely, especially if a contending team is willing to trade for that wide receiver. So, like, for example, if we were to trade Antonio Brown to one of the playoff teams, Seahawks, okay, definitely, Pete Carroll has to give up that first-rounder. But I think that when like Jarvis Landry, he was great in Miami, but you got to think about Miami. Miami was terrible. So, like, you can't really judge it based on, I mean, his production was great, but I mean, what really made somebody jump off the page? I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. probably deserves a first-round pick from some teams, but that's because teams are trying to sell tickets. At the end of the day, Jarvis Landry isn't going to be one of the jerseys that Browns fans are going to wear, right? So at the end of the day, I don't believe Jarvis Landry deserves a first-round pick. So I believe that I think that you're trying to do some Madden simulated trades, and those wouldn't work in the real game.
All right, fair enough. Before we dive into the rest of this debate, I want to tell you guys something. So you guys are going to get ready to laugh because Black Star Radio is hosting a comedy open mic in the Kent State Student Center this coming Thursday. I will be there. I can't wait. It's the first Kent State Student Center event Black Star Radio has hosted in a decade. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you know anybody funny, drive down 2 hours, an hour away. I don't care. Drive down, see me. I'll be there. I didn't sign up because I'm not funny. I think when it comes to sports, I can't be funny, but I don't think generally I'm funny. But please be there. So head down to the free show on March 14th from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Have lots of local comedians and students. The show is open to everyone and will be happening Thursday night in the Ralph Skeleton. Sign up for a show slot or just enjoy the show. See you then. All right. So we already said, to recap, quarterback, we're going Pittsburgh. Running back, we're going Cleveland. Receivers and tight ends, we're going Pittsburgh. Let's do offensive line. We said Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. David DeCastro, Hall of Famer. Marquise Pouncey might be on his way to a Hall of Fame spot. Studs. They're amazing.
All right, let's do defensive line.
Okay, defensive line, I'm probably going with the Browns just based on youth. Like I said, Steelers really struggled to stop the run. Ever since Shazier went down with his injury in December of 2017. 2017, yeah. Ever since Ryan Shazier went down, they've struggled to stop the run, and that has also impacted the D-line. So I believe, you know what, as far as what's on the field, the Browns struggled to stop the run in the offseason, but now I think with adding the different pieces that they're adding, Olivier Vernon, potentially another D lineman, they're going to be okay, and they're going to be better at stopping the run than the Steelers.
That's fair. I think Tuitt and Hayward, I think, are good. I think Garrett's probably better than both of them. So yeah, I'll probably say Cleveland too. Okay, and then linebackers, we're gonna say Cleveland, right?
Linebackers, yes, 100%. When you're missing that inside linebacker, that captain of your team in Ryan Shazier, you're missing everything really. So I have to go with the Browns as well, especially with their pickup of Vernon.
Okay, and then the secondary, we will say Cleveland, I would say, right? That they got the better secondary?
Younger, faster, better at chasing the ball. I got to say, I think the Steelers' plan in coverage is just to literally follow the man and not follow the ball because our turnover differential has been awful for the past 5 years. So Browns definitely better secondary.
Okay, so at this point, we got a 4-3 advantage for Cleveland. The final category, special teams. So that would be kickers, punters, or returners. I'm honestly going to say it's pretty much a tie. I mean, Greg Joseph's. Who's your guys' kicker? Because it's not Boswell anymore, right?
Well, I think it's still going to be Boswell. I don't know if we've cut him. I had to do my research on that. I don't think we've cut him because of the contract that we've paid him. And here's my thing about kicking, is I believe that at the end of the day, special teams is a mental game. Everything about it. You've got one play. If the snap's high, if you shank the kick, you're in trouble. So I believe it's all a mental game, and I believe that Chris Boswell is a really, really talented special teams kicker, and I believe he's going to bounce back. I'll have to go with the Steelers just because our punter, I think Jordan Berry, is a good, solid punter in the league. But as far as the defensive side of the special teams, it's probably 50-50. I think the Browns probably have a better special teams as far as stopping the return as it is. So I think that's pretty much a tie, and I'll label that one as a tie because Boswell's a great kicker. We've got a pretty decent punter. I don't really know that much about on the Browns side, but as a defensive special teams, Browns are definitely better than the Steelers.
Okay, so if we do that, then that'd be 4-3 advantage Cleveland. Now, Cleveland has the advantage all over the defense. For the most part, Pittsburgh has the advantage on offense. And we know the expression in football, we saw in the Super Bowl this year, defense wins championships. So, yeah, I mean, if we're going by this list, the Browns have the better roster on paper. And I think when it just comes down to it, I don't know. If I was a betting man, I'm not. I would take Pittsburgh. Just my personal opinion.
I think that a lot of Browns fans would take Pittsburgh just because of the dependability that the Steelers have been the past 15 or so years. But I think that really it all comes down to, can the Browns get to Big Ben, and could the line block for Baker Mayfield? That is the million-dollar question to this entire thing, okay?
See, you're absolutely correct. And here's the thing. I am not sold on the Browns' offensive line as everybody else is. I'm not sold on J.C. Treader. I think moving Zeitler, I wasn't a fan of Zeitler. I'm a fan of Antonio to an extent. I think he's decent at left guard. Greg Robinson is an He might hold down the fort. That's the thing. He might hold down the fort at left tackle. Right tackle, I think we got him last year from you guys.
Cam Hubbard.
Yeah, Hubbard. Chris Hubbard.
Chris Hubbard. Yeah.
He's terrible to me. He's been terrible all year. I mean, he was okay in Pittsburgh, right? Or was he trash there too?
Actually, he was really good in Pittsburgh. That's how he got the deal. Basically, around the week before New England, I think it was after the Christmas game against the Texans last year, Marcus Gilbert fell with the PED suspension, and Chris Hubbard came in to replace Marcus Gilbert, and he did a really good job, and that's why the Browns paid him.
Well, and he's just been trash in Cleveland. So, to me, I don't like the right tackle. Again, Corbett can be okay at right guard, so I think your guard's okay. I think Treader's okay, but the key word there is okay. You know, they're not great. You look at Philadelphia's offensive line, and this is where I will make your argument over Pittsburgh. I do believe that Philadelphia is the best offensive line. Because Kelsey, you got easily an all-pro in Kelsey. I think Kelsey's a Hall of Famer. I think Brandon Brooks is a Hall of Famer. Brooks hasn't given up a sack since he's been there in 3 years. Lane Johnson, to me, is a Hall of Famer at right tackle. So, to me, you got those three guys. Then you got Jason Peters, which I think will be back on the left side. He's 100% a Hall of Famer. So you look at that offensive line, that's 4 A's to me, where the Browns, they might have won a lot of B's, and B's on offensive line, it's okay to have one, but if you have 4 B's, that is almost an equivalent to a just above average offensive line, and that doesn't work in football.
Well, I would have to disagree with you on the idea that Philly's offensive line is better than the Steelers.
Oh, come on.
Listen here, okay? Think about it. You guys had to end up trading for Golden Tate, an Asian wide receiver, okay? Listen, we don't have to make trades for skill players because our offensive line makes those skill players that we draft better, okay? James Conner, out of nowhere, a physical beast. But listen, if he didn't have that offensive line, would he have been hurt? I think he would have. Now, Philly, we don't have to make trades to keep the offense moving because the offensive line just keeps churning and churning. And David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey and Ramon Foster, they're just so consistent. They never get injured, and they're definitely the best offensive line.
Well,
100%.
The Eagles got a lot better last year, and their offensive line actually got healthy. If you remember, Peters is battling an injury all year. Lane Johnson battling an injury all year. Kelsey in and out of the lineup. But when those guys were healthy, we dominated. When all 5 of them were in the lineup, we dominated. And let me say this about Golden Tate. The reason why we traded for Golden Tate is just for another weapon, and he ended up being a key to the Bears' win. But you know, it doesn't matter how great of an offensive line you have for receivers, they got to get open. And it was just the fact of the matter of we lost Mike Wallace. Nelson Aguilar couldn't play outside, and we had to force to move him to the outside. So we didn't have a slot guy. That's why we traded for Golden Tate. It had nothing to do with our offensive line. It was the fact of the matter is we literally were picking up wide receivers on the street because all of our guys got hurt. We dealt with a lot of injuries last year.
That's why I believe that the Eagles will definitely win the Super Bowl next season because you guys were hurt. I mean, at the end of the day, the Eagles were hurt. And I think that's the reason why they didn't go as far as they did. And I think they will beat Frank Wright and the Colts in Super Bowl.
Ooh, you know what? Now, let me say this. I was going to say this for next week, and I still am, but I want to point this out. I read this article. They broke down coaches, right, from every single coach in the NFL that aren't the rookie head coaches. Like, they didn't include Freddie Kitchens or Matt LaFleur or any of those. They did include the coach that have at least coached in the NFL on the same team for this year. Frank Reich. You want to know where Frank Reich is ranked? 14th. It's absolutely crazy.
We got to make sure we're on here. I just received a text. So let's double check things.
We're on. Go on.
Okay. No, you go on. You were in the middle of your thought.
Oh, okay. Okay. What was I talking about again? My apologies.
Frank Reich. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Frank Reich is ranked 14th.
14th.
Yeah.
14th in what?
Coaches.
Yeah. Is that like your personal ranking? Or?
No. I read this article. I think Frank Reich's easily in the top 10, if not top 5. I love Frank Reich.
Absolutely. I would agree with you. With the roster that the Colts had in transition, that definitely, their head coach, Frank Reich, definitely a disciple, if you will, of Doug Peterson, and that really helped their cause this year, having him, especially with Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson. What a rookie class for the Colts, and hope to see them do well this next season with Andrew Luck fully healthy because he just seems like a really good guy.
I agree. All right, so we got 10 minutes before we're going to take a little bit of a break here. Let's talk about what's going down next week at the Q. Now, we're going to talk about something else at the Q, which is tomorrow. We're going to talk about that in the next hour. But next week at the Q, man, Kent State last night beat Akron 68-65 to advance to Quicken Loans Arena, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be there. Our whole BSR Sports Run is going to be down there next weekend, and hopefully Kent State comes away with the MAC championship, and let's see if they can be one of the 64. I think Kent State personally is like the 4th or 5th best team in the MAC. I don't think that they're going to win the championship. I think I'd place at least Buffalo and Toledo over them, if not Bowling Green to some extent. But Kent's got a shot for sure.
Kent's got a shot, I think, because of the element of Jalen Avery getting open and also Antonio Williams. Antonio Williams had about 3 or 4 key buckets down the stretch for the Flashes in their win last night over Akron. What a game that was. Actually, we don't get CBS Sports Network in the newsroom here. So actually what I ended up doing was I was producing our Kent State Overtime show on TV2 late last night. And my buddy Brandon Kagan and I decided to stream it on Reddit. So it was pretty interesting that a Reddit streamer had that going on so that we could watch it visually. I also kept tabs with it on blacksquirrelradio.com, the Spreaker outlet there. So definitely a huge game. Antonio Williams with a huge wing jump shot on the key, and man, was it a good game. 68-65 Flashes, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was listening. I didn't get to see it at all, really. I wasn't aware of the second half. I was covering the MAC State Championship for wrestling, which Andrew McNally will be competing for the MAC Championship today. But so I had to listen to that and watch that. So I wasn't able to watch most of the game, unfortunately. But I do know that at one, as he mentioned, 68-65. And I saw the last couple minutes. What a crazy ending.
Oh, my goodness. Just back and forth the entire game. And that's just definitely what the rivalry is supposed to be in the Wagon Wheel Challenge. And definitely got the victory, especially coming off the horrible loss to Akron last month, where I think we got beat by 15 to 20 points.
I think it was like 72 to 53 or something like that. I know Kent. It was close the first half, but Kent State just didn't hang around in the second half. Akron blew the brakes off them in the second half. So, I mean, just for Kent, we know in this tournament stuff. I think the big thing is, will Buffalo or Toledo go down? I think that's what we have to look at, because if they go down, then the door's wide open. But right now, to me, those are the top two teams. Kent State played Buffalo tough at home, but they couldn't finish it out at the end. That's the one game I called this year. They played really well in the first half, and then they just fell apart in the second half. To me, I'm just worried a little about Kent, because I feel like they're a really good home team. But I think when they're away from the MAC Center, they tend to struggle.
I think so too. I think it has to do with that packed crowd at the MAC, and overall just the up-tempo style that the Flashes are able to play on their own home floor. You get a couple more calls when you're at home, and I think that works out. As it worked out last night, it was a 3-point game, and it was a rivalry game, and the Flashes were able to pull one out.
I mean,
without Jalen Walker,
right,
their best player.
Right, and it was really a 1-point game, because Kent State threw up a shot at the end, and it ended up going in to really ice it. So it was really a 66-65 game. What happened was Kent State missed a shot. They got the offensive rebound. It was a scramble for the ball, and they were able to put it back up and in. But, yeah, I mean, MAC championship, I cannot wait. I'm going to be in the queue for the first time in 5 years. Now, Michael, I got a question for you. Normally on Twitter, I give away a gift card every week or every couple of weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a chance right now to win a gift card, which, again, I haven't looked. I will let you know what that place is. Might be Starbucks. It's simply going to be something around here.
Okay.
But
now we're talking.
I'm going to give you a chance right now to win a gift card, if you can answer this question.
Okay.
What was the last event I ever went to in the queue?
In the queue.
Last event I've been to in the queue.
I don't know. Let's see.
I haven't told you this, and again, this is fair, because normally something that people don't know about me that I would say on my show or something. So it's not stuff you can Google. You might be able to know this.
I think I have a feeling of what it is. I know we're going to get into a wrestling conversation. I know you talk about your favorite pay-per-views all the time, and you believe that the 2005 to 2008 time frame was your favorite time in wrestling because you became a fan. So I'm going to go with Unforgiven 2008.
That was not the last time I was in the queue. Last time was 2014 Raw, 2 weeks after the Shield broke up. It was the first time they came up with their new entrance and stuff. That's the last time I've been in the queue. Now, here's another thing, and this will kind of spoil it, but I've never been to a Cavs game.
Really?
So this is going to be the first time I've ever seen basketball in the queue. And I'm looking forward. I know everybody's shocked when I told them I've never been to a Cavs game. I've never seen LeBron play, never done anything like that. I've gotten 3 tickets to Browns games. That's why, I've been to more preseason Browns games than regular season games. Some of it's money factor, but some of it's also like, I'm not a big going to game type person unless I'm working. Like if I'm working for Kent State, I would love to go to every game.
Absolutely.
But as a fan, I just think it's easier to see it on TV. You can have your own thoughts and stuff like that,
Yeah, I totally agree with some circles. But then again, there's nothing like being there, for PNC Park, for baseball season, for my Pirates, those kind of things. If somebody, once again, I think that it's not even really a debate. If somebody gave you the choice to come and, work the game or come help out with something or come be a part of the atmosphere, I definitely think that being at the game matters. But I definitely agree with you in some circles. Being at home sometimes, especially for things like a hockey game, might be cool as well.
Let me tell you something else. A couple years ago, somebody offered me tickets to a Cavs playoff road game watch party at the queue. I declined.
Really?
I declined. I want to sit when I watch a playoff game. Now, if you don't know this about me because I haven't told you this, I mentioned earlier in the show how I went on a social media hiatus during those 3 years in playoffs. when it comes to playoffs, I'm very superstitious. Like, I am locked in, so focused. Like, I don't want anybody else near me, like 20 feet away. Seriously. Like,
Right.
I am so focused. I don't want to hear noise. Like, I want it to be as quiet as possible, so I'm just staring and watching and observing and just taking in the moment.
Are you a yeller at the TV? Do you yell at the TV?
I used to be. I'm learning not to. Let me tell you the last time I actually got mad.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the Eagles game against the Saints. The last time I legit got mad was the Indians against the Astros. That was more because I was fed up watching that BS.
How could,
Okay?
like, the Astros were above and beyond
The
better?
game 3, when they were just completely destroying us, I was sick to my stomach. Just sick. Watching this team just get completely destroyed. See, I'm getting a little triggered right now. It makes me mad watching my team get blown out in the playoffs, which is triggering me. But I used to get really mad. I'm learning how to decompress. I'm not really a yeller, unless, like, the JR play was when I screamed. Because when boneheaded things happen, that's when I yell. But when you just don't make a play, or you just don't do something, that's when I'm like, okay, you got to make that play. But when you're stupid enough to not know the score of the game, that's when I get mad.
Yeah, that's worthy of getting mad at, not knowing the score of the game.
I am literally pacing back and forth like this. Now, me and my brother were watching the game together. We were pacing back and forth. I was so distraught. I didn't even know what to do.
And I would definitely have to agree with you. I actually flipped out more when they reversed the original charge call on Kevin Durant. I just lost it because at that point we're all sitting there watching. LeBron takes the charge. LeBron's got the ball, and I think the Cavs were up by 1 at that point, if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't get it how in any way you could call back a charge call when that's never been called back ever. So it was ridiculous. When Durant should have got called the charge, that was when the NBA ended for me. I quit, and the NBA is just an awful spectacle right now.
Thank you. All right, well, we're not going to dive into that because we are at the top of the hour here. So instead of taking a break, we'll take a break halfway through. Let's just dive into wrestling. Let's just do it.
Let's do it.
So we got Fastlane, and we got Roman Reigns. I can't believe I'm saying this, Michael. Is making his return to a WWE ring, competing in Cleveland, Ohio, the house that LeBron built that Dan Gilbert's taking credit for, as I like to call it. Quicken Loans Arena tomorrow, March 10th. Fastlane at Quicken Loans Arena. First WWE pay-per-view in 3 years. And, I told you before the show, I said usually WWE and Cleveland don't get great pay-per-views. I think this one has potential. Now, some of these matches on this card is predictable, but I think they're all going to be pretty good matches, and I'm looking forward to it. I think we have 2 potentials for a main event. I don't think there's a sure main event. And, the booking for this pay-per-view hasn't been bad. I thought Raw this past Monday was the best Raw easily of the year, probably the last 6 months. I enjoyed it for like the first time in a while. That stretch from November to the end of February is pretty much unwatchable TV, in my opinion, as we've talked about before. But yeah, this pay-per-view is not looking too shabby.
It's not looking too shabby, Brandon, but I think it has to do with the element that we talked about 2 weeks back. When you don't have Roman Reigns in the fold and you're trying to build things leading up into WrestleMania, things are tough. Things are tough within that Monday Night Football time frame from September to November. But now, think about the chaos. 2 weeks ago, I was on your show, right? And we were talking about how difficult it is for WWE to book a show without Roman Reigns. Now you've got Roman Reigns back. Plans have changed. We're getting ready to move forward with it, with Roman Reigns in the fold. But I'm just interested to see where they go about with this with the main event. I'm excited to see the 6-man main event. And usually I'm not big on the 6-man tag matches because the Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, Baron Corbin team has been really, really, really pushed down our throats. But I'm excited for this match. and I'm excited to see what they do with it.
I was actually shocked it wasn't an 8-man match. I thought at least they put Elias in. I thought maybe it'd be a 3-on-4 handicap, or they add Strowman to the Shield team. Because now, like, Elias attacked Ambrose. So, like, now what? Elias is moving on? That's the one part I didn't understand, why it's only 3-on-3.
Call me crazy, but I believe Elias has bigger plans in his future. Undertaker right now does not have a WrestleMania opponent, and I don't think that John Cena at this point really makes sense unless they want to pull the trigger the week before the show. But in my opinion, I believe Elias has bigger plans, and we're just going to leave it at that.
You know what would be funny? You remember, because I was thinking about this last night. It's been 7 years since we've had the once in a lifetime, which I thought was the greatest thing ever. You book a WrestleMania match a year in advance. What if we do the opposite? We don't even announce a WrestleMania match on the card. We just have John Cena and Undertaker come out randomly.
That's what we did last year.
No, but here's the thing. This time, Cena came out beforehand and said, I don't know if the Undertaker's going to show up. This year, it'll be John Cena just showing up at WrestleMania and going, I want the Undertaker. I know he's here. It's WrestleMania.
I mean, I don't know. When I see John Cena, I think that the plan right now is for Kurt Angle to have some sort of a retirement match. I think that Kurt Angle is – I mean, Kurt Angle is one of my favorite wrestlers. But right now he's just completely – I think he's done with wrestling. I think that based on his physical stature right now, I think he needs to have one retirement match. And boy, I tell you, a great retirement match would be Cena because – he had Cena's debut match in 2002 on June SmackDown.
Yes.
So if you have John Cena and Kurt Angle in a little, probably 5-10 minute match.
No, I want it to be longer than that, man. I want it to be like a great retirement match, like the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair type 15-minute. I want it to be a legit good match.
And I'm happy that you brought up the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair thing because every match that Shawn was in that involved a retirement was awesome stuff. Why Shawn's my favorite wrestler. But at the end of the day, I just believe that there's a lot of things for WrestleMania that can be done. I don't think they know.
Now, Michael.
I don't think they know what they're going to do. But my big thing is, with Roman Reigns, you got to do something big. But what were you going to go into?
Michael, this is my one concern for WrestleMania. You're right. I don't think they know what they're going to do. My concern is this. I read a report this morning. Now, again, these are just reports. They can change. WrestleMania right now could have as many as 16 matches.
Well, I just think that's because nobody has a real clear-cut opponent right now. I mean,
here's the thing. I have not liked the last few years that WrestleMania has gone on for 5-7 hours. It's way too long. By the time you get to the 8th or 9th match on the card, it doesn't matter if it's a WWE Championship match like the AJ Styles Nakamura last year, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt the year before.
Mm-hmm.
They had great feuds going into the match, and then during the match, the crowd was dead because the show was just way too long.
Well, I think that has to do with a lot of matches that are the same length, like we talked about. I believe that if you're going to have 16 matches, you've got to make it kind of attitude era based, a little bit in style, and make these matches very quick. I think that the big thing with the Attitude Era is they really boosted characters and storylines, but then they really kicked butt on the blow-off for the 5 to 10 minute match. And I believe they have the potential to do that, but I kind of give WWE a pass here because when you start off not thinking that you're going to have Roman Reigns, and then 2 weeks ago you find out, yeah, we're going to have Roman now. Things completely change 100%. And they can kind of do whatever they want at this point, just as long as the top matches, the women's triple threat, SmackDown WWE title match, Batista Triple H, when those get off the ground, this would be a great show.
I want to talk about those three matches. So let's devote most of our time to that. Specifically, I wanted to ask you, have you seen the Ronda Rousey promo she cut? Have you heard about this yet?
I've heard about it. Is it the one where she's on the couch talking about the WWE is fake?
Yes. Now, here's the thing. I do think part of it is scripted. But I do not think all of her promo is scripted. I think some of it, to be honest, I think is true. I think she is legit mad at the company. I think she is legit mad at Becky. I've heard she doesn't love this feud. I heard she's, legit mad. And I think it's to the point where I saw a lot of comments on social media. The fans want her out. I mean,
no, I think it's 100% a storyline.
You do think it's 100%?
100%. And here's why, Brandon. Because at the end of the day, we're all wrestling fans, and we all like to be our imagination likes to be stretched. But we always think to ourselves, man, what would it be like if they really put in that old school emotional attachment to a storyline? And that's what this is. Ronda Rousey is not a WWE superstar. She is a megastar in women's sports, in women's physical sports, that kind of thing. We don't need to see her cut this stereotypical WWE promo. She's the opposite of these stars. 100%. I think it's the best move that could possibly happen is Becky and Ronda acting like they really have a feud together. I mean, I don't necessarily have to check Twitter to believe that, because at the end of the day, we're all watching characters.
I think that they legit do have a feud, though. That's my thing. I think Ronda is legitimately mad at the company.
Well, how can she be mad at the company? She's getting the proper push, and she's basically the top star in the entire company.
Because she believes she's untouchable. And this is what happened at the end of her UFC run. She believes she was bigger than the UFC. Then she gets knocked out twice. She quits the UFC to go to WWE. Pretty much almost admits she committed suicide because she was so distraught because she thinks she's such a mega star. That's where I think this thing can be potentially real, is because Ronda does think she's a bigger-than-life personality. She does think she's bigger than the company, and I really don't think she does respect the business.
Right, but I also have to think that some of these storylines have to do with past ways to get heat. And I personally believe that when you think about the organic heat that this angle is receiving, you got to go back to 1997. And you got to go back to the early point where it was Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin. The business was changing. The business was leaning towards more of an Attitude Era type feel leading into WrestleMania 13, Chicago, Illinois. It was a one-match show, Bret Hart and Steve Austin. But basically, Bret Hart was his own character, and everybody believed that Bret really was, this anti-American, Canadian type person, and it resonated with all the American guys to make this unbelievable heat-filled storyline. Basically, Bret Hart was a Canadian guy and is about Canada and is about being an upstanding guy. And so that dynamic works well with what the WWE is trying to push.
Right, but so again, it is their true feelings.
So back to Ronda Rousey. I mean, it is her true feelings about it a little bit, but I don't think she has heat with the company. I believe that she's using an element of herself to put that out to the masses, to put it out there that, hey, I'm a UFC fighter, and this is fake. Acknowledge that it's fake. It creates more buzz, because at the end of the day, we want more passion out of what we're doing, and that's the way to get to it, is to have a UFC-style, old-school-style wrestling promo to implement in there to make this a physical fight. And I fully believe that it's an awesome promo.
Oh, yes, it's going to work. I just think part of me wants to believe it's part of it's real just because I think it adds to the story, but you're possibly right. I'm going to keep it my belief because that's what I believe in, and that'll help me. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if even if I know it's 100% fake, if I think in my mind it's not, that'll help me get more invested in the story.
Absolutely, but you also got to keep in mind that, hey, this is all part of a storyline. This is all about to ramp this up to 11, and this is what I talked about 2 weeks ago on the show. You have all of these elements because Ronda Rousey is that big of a star in mainstream culture, in wrestling culture. She's the top girl, the top wrestler in the company right now, okay, at the top. Okay, you've got Becky Lynch, who's kind of on the other side of the audience. That is more about the hardcore fans, the loyal fans, network subscribers. Becky Lynch is their girl. And then over here you've got Charlotte, who's the best women's wrestler of all time. You can't make it any worse. One angle that I didn't like was the Elimination Chamber promo when Becky Lynch beat up Ronda and Charlotte with the crutches, and then the announcers tried to turn her heel. I don't think that was the best move.
No.
Other than that, this whole storyline has been beautiful because I think it's been booked the right way.
You're right.
We don't need to see a fake Ronda Rousey.
No.
We need to see the real Ronda Rousey.
And I give you full credit for convincing me that Charlotte Flair going into the match was the right decision. I do give you credit for that. Okay, really quick before we get into our John Cena Ric Flair debate, which we've been teasing, I wanted to talk about the WWE Championship match really quick because it's Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens. I think it'll be good a match. I think Daniel Bryan does retain because I think this is all setting up for the Kofi Kingston WrestleMania moment. What's your thoughts on it?
I completely agree with that. Once again, I think with the SmackDown depth that they have and the way that the 2 hours works on their segments, they're able to position guys that Raw wouldn't be able to because of the 3 hours. So I fully believe that whether it was Kofi Kingston, whether it was Mustafa Ali, whether it was Kevin Owens, the WrestleMania storyline would have worked because Daniel Bryan's on another level right now. At the end of the day, I would like to see Kofi Kingston in it because it keeps you emotionally invested. This guy has been a hard worker his entire career. I think he had the best feud that Randy Orton had in 2011 was that short-lived feud in January. And that was a big-time feud for Kofi Kingston because it put him on the map.
Can you imagine the promos that Daniel Bryan can cut about Kofi Kingston? The New Day, they eat pancakes. They eat cereal. Like, can you imagine, it's not healthy for the environment. Like, can you imagine these great promos Daniel's going to be able to cut just by the food the New Day eats that isn't healthy?
Absolutely, and I think that was kind of something that was lacking from the WWE title feud last year is we didn't see a lot of character building because we were all focused on the Styles Nakamura match. I think this is a totally different scenario. You could have the New Day come out, you could have Daniel Bryan come out, cut a really comedic promo, but at the end of the day, you know that both of these guys are two of the best in-ring workers of the modern era, and they're going to come out and they're going to put out a really good match. And the best thing about it, Brandon, you know what the best part of it is?
What?
Who's going to win the match?
Kofi, 100%. Kofi, 100%.
I don't know.
Here's my thing. You got to give Kofi the moment because there's no sense of not giving him the moment. And if Daniel retains championship, when is he going to lose it?
Well, I've read things that the next Saudi Arabia show is in late April. So
no, it's May 3rd. It's Friday, May 3rd.
Friday, May 3rd. That was the official date.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I mean, what I see happening is I see Kofi Kingston winning at WrestleMania, and then either a week later, maybe the Tuesday after Mania, a week later, they'll put the belt back on Daniel Bryan.
Oh, I agree, but I think Kofi has to win the belt at Mania. That's my point. Is I think Daniel can get the title back a day later, and it doesn't matter. As long as Kofi gets the WrestleMania moment, it's like the Zack Ryder. Do you remember Zack Ryder, WrestleMania 32?
Mm-hmm.
Won the Intercontinental Championship. Next night, lost it again to Bad News Bear, which is one of the best. Or no, he lost it to The Miz. I'm sorry.
The Miz.
But Bad News Bear, I don't want to get off that, but that was one of the greatest gimmicks of all time. I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
Some bad news, mate.
But yeah, so Zack Ryder won the title at WrestleMania, lost it the next night. Since then, it's been pretty much buried. Not saying Kofi's gonna be buried, but a similar situation where he could win the title and lose it the next night and never have another opportunity again, and I'd be fine with that.
Well, I think it's all about the WrestleMania moment. This is a guy who's really worked hard, who was a Hall of Famer before this storyline, and I believe that 100% he's going to win at WrestleMania. And then the following Tuesday, Big E and Xavier Woods turn on him during the rematch, and Daniel Bryan wins the belt.
Now that's good. That's good. But do you think they're ready to break up the New Day?
I don't want them to. I think that you got to look at it's the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, and the Usos, and I think the New Day's in that conversation too. I'm not ready to part with them yet because they're still high on merchandise sales. They still can cut a promo. They still can make me laugh. I'm not ready to see them tear them apart.
Here's the thing, though. What else can they do? Like that's my thing. Is eventually you're gonna run out of stuff to do, right?
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, Daniel Bryan can recruit one more person, whether it be Bray Wyatt or Luke Harper, to go with him in this feud, and maybe you could defend the WWE Championship in a series of 6-man matches. I know that's not ethical, but it's different.
No, that's good, and that's where I think that the New Day doesn't turn on him. I do think that, like you said, I think Daniel gets the belt back the next night in SmackDown by incorporating Luke Harper. I think Bray Wyatt is going to be the singles man on Raw. I don't think Bray Wyatt comes back to this stable. I think if anybody does, it'll be Harper.
I'm just confused as to what else they could do with Bray Wyatt at this point. Everybody on Raw is basically work with now. There's nowhere else he can go besides SmackDown at this point.
Some of the NXT guys, like a Bray Wyatt, Aleister Black feud, maybe if they don't win the titles.
Well, and here's the thing. I believe that Ricochet and Aleister Black, I think they're still in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. So I don't think it's ethical for them to win the Raw tag titles when they're still on NXT trying to chase those tag titles. It just doesn't make sense. So I think in the three-way tag, you're going to see Ricochet and Aleister Black not get pinned, and I think the Revival's going to pin Rude and Gable to retain the belts. But back to Aleister Black and Ricochet, you have so much time on what to do with these guys. I believe one of them ends up on SmackDown, one of them ends up on Raw. But one thing I want to mention, prep these guys up with promo packages that aren't interview packages backstage. Back in the early 90s, there was a show called WWF Superstars, a syndicated show, where all they did was a couple matches and a backstage promo and a backdrop. And I believe that backstage promo and a backdrop would work with somebody like Aleister Black, would work with somebody like Ricochet, because that would allow the character aspect to get over rather than Aleister Black acting like a real human being when he's like this dark character. So fully believe that if Bray Wyatt goes to SmackDown, one of those guys has to go there too. I agree with you. Good point.
Fair enough. All right, so for the last 10 minutes here, let's talk the GOAT conversation, because I said something last week. You texted me that you were supposed to be on last week, but you had a personal commitment, which is fine by me. But I appreciate you listening into the show. So you texted me and you were like, yo, John Cena ain't the GOAT, Ric Flair is. So let's just do it. So what I think of the GOAT, Grid's all the time, I'm not comparing championships.
Me either.
Okay? But I just think when you have John Cena and Ric Flair, I think John Cena changed the business forever. Now, I'm not saying Ric Flair didn't, but I don't think this modern era survives without John Cena.
I would completely disagree with that, because in order to get to today's modern era, you got to get through Ric Flair first. But I want to hear your argument because I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so here's my thing. Like, John Cena, from about WrestleMania 20 to WrestleMania 30, was, for 10 years, that is, a 10-year stretch, he was the guy. And I mean the guy. There was no Roman Reigns. Triple H was not the guy. He was the apparent to John Cena. John Cena was the guy. John Cena was the guy that, like, if there was a big bad Big Show or a big bad JBL or a big bad John Laurinaitis or a big bad Vince, whoever, Great Khali, whoever was a monster heel, they didn't call on Triple H, really. I mean, Triple H was more of the guy that was in the tag team and that time with DX, and he was a heel, or he went to SmackDown as a face.
Triple H feud was terrible, but go on.
So, to me, like, John Cena was the guy, the face of the company. He would be Tom Brady, the face of the league. It wasn't Triple H, it wasn't The Undertaker, it was John Cena. Non-wrestling fans knew who John Cena was.
Oh my gosh. Do we keep going? I want you to finish.
So, to me, John Cena is the only reason why WWE is the way it is. I don't think WWE becomes this global phenomenon without John Cena. Now, as you know, I was the biggest fan of Edge. I was not a big fan of John Cena until about 5 years ago. And then I realized something. I said, no, wait a minute. This guy changed the game. Without John Cena, we don't get all these feuds. We don't get every monster match, every WWE championship, every World Heavyweight Championship match for 10 years, basically had John Cena in it. John Cena main event of WrestleManias, but he main event of WrestleMania 26, 27, 22, 23, 29, and 28. I mean, that's the guy. Roman Reigns turning into John Cena now. Roman Reigns is leading this generation, but without John Cena, we don't even get a Roman Reigns, to me.
Well, I completely disagree with your adage that non-pro wrestling fans know who John Cena is.
Oh, absolutely, they know who John Cena is.
Well, they know who John Cena is because of what he does in Hollywood, but the woo is a catchphrase that is literally everybody in modern culture knows that the Nature Boy Ric Flair is woo. There's nobody else. I mean, and in this conversation, it surprised me. Both wrestlers, they're known for their catchphrases. You can't see me, the woo. Ric Flair is known for the big gold belt. John Cena is known for the spinner belt. But you know what, Brandon? At the end of the day, you got to go way back. Why do we have cool heels now in the wrestling business? Why? I'm going to tell you why. Because from 86 to 89 in Jim Crockett Promotions and into WCW, there was no better bad guy than Ric Flair. 100%, 110%. Now, I don't believe Ric Flair is the GOAT, and this is a conversation for later. But at the end of the day, Ric Flair won world titles in 3 major organizations. You had Jim Crockett Promotions, then WCW, then WWE. And think about it, Brandon. I mean, at the end of the day, this guy, when he was in the territory days from 86 to 89, he had fantastic matches with everybody around the territories. He went to Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico. He went to Nick Bockwinkel in the AWA. He went to Bruno Sammartino and Bob Backlund when they were the WWF champion in New York. This guy went everywhere. He transcended what it means to be a pro wrestler, and he was also a cool heel. But listen to this, Brandon. It just continues to get better. Because you want to know why? It's because his run into 89 with his trilogy of matches with Ricky Steamboat, his 3 matches. You had the Chi-Town Rumble, you had the Raging Cajun, and then you had the Nashville Music City match, the 3 trilogy with Steamboat. You had the 2 matches with Steamboat. Steamboat won the 2 matches, both on roll-ups, and Flair won the 3rd one on a roll-up. And Flair was the heel after the victory against Steamboat. But then Terry Funk came in, and they did a double switch. They turned Flair babyface and Terry Funk as a heel, and then they just went off right to the races, and I love those Terry Funk matches in late 89. But back to what I was going to say here, when he went to WWE, he was immediately pushed as the top guy because everybody knew him as Ric Flair. It didn't matter that he was on the other side for years. He was pushed as the Royal Rumble winner in 92, the best Royal Rumble ever. I will say that Cena never really had that great of opponents. I mean, he had Edge and CM Punk, really. Those are the only 2.
Randy, his
Randy Orton
second rivalry
with
2009 was great. That Cena Orton 2009 feud was really good. The 07 feud was really good. I love the John Cena Triple H stuff in 2008. See, the John Cena Jericho stuff. John Cena had great opponents. Don't get me, he didn't have any great opponents.
I think Cena's best run was 05 to 07 because he went from JBL to Edge to
Shawn Michaels.
Excellent feud. I'm not really a big fan of the Triple H feud. I believe that Cena's best work was in 2011 when he had his exact opposite in CM Punk. I believe it was his overall best work. I think that it was his best work match-wise. Best work storyline-wise was Edge. That's what I grew up with. But at the end of the day, Ric Flair, every guy he got into the ring with got better. And it was kind of surprising to me because both guys have gems against other guys. Ric Flair had a great match against Bret Hart. It sold out in 98 in WCW. John Cena, my favorite John Cena match is against Rob Van Dam from ECW One Night Stand 2006.
That's fair.
That was an excellent match. But at the end of the day, it's all about feuds, and it's all about really, at the end of the day, John Cena makes movies. People make movies about Ric Flair.
See, now
think about that.
I feel like this is the LeBron Michael Jordan debate. I think Ric Flair is Michael Jordan. I think John Cena is LeBron. And hear me out on this. John Cena is a movie star. John Cena is the modern generation. But Ric Flair is the old school guy. You know, Ric Flair just flat out won championships. Ric Flair didn't cause drama. John Cena can be considered a drama king like LeBron. He buried people. And I think, you know, this is where my modern generation shows. I think you and a couple other of my friends have respect for the history. You know, like you were giving me all these historical things. I'm more of a modern guy. That's just me. What have you done for me lately? And how is this changing over time? I'm just in the mindset that, like, John Cena is LeBron, and if I believe LeBron's the GOAT, then I believe John Cena's the GOAT. If I believe Michael Jordan was the GOAT in basketball, let's say, I would believe that Ric Flair's the GOAT, more than likely.
Well, listen to this. Here's the part of your conversation that I wanted to bring up. Ric Flair was just in the biggest angle of Raw over the past 5 years 2 weeks ago. He was in the main event of Raw.
Well,
where's John Cena been at? We can't see John Cena.
Okay.
Where's he been at, though?
Fair enough. Okay. We have about 4 minutes left, so I kind of want to cut off this debate. You made a really good last point. That's a really good last point.
But anyways, last thing I want to make is Ric Flair's best match was his last match in WWE. I mean, he had good stuff with Jay Lethal in TNA, but his best match
you're probably right.
in WWE was that Shawn Michaels match in that retirement match. But back to John Cena, I think he's a top 10 great. I think Ric Flair's a top 5, and I don't think it's really that close just because Ric Flair's second run in WWE was spectacular from 2002 to 2008. But I totally agree with you. Cena is at that level, just not quite there.
All right. Really quickly, before we get off the air, I want to talk to you about this. That Triple H promo last Monday. You may think I'm nuts for this. I think that was the best promo maybe he's ever cut.
Ooh.
I was into that promo. Dave, you're not talking to Hunter, you're talking to Paul, and I'm going to kick your... Like,
yeah,
I've never seen Triple H, even as a face, as a heel, that incensed. Dave, you messed up. I forgot exactly, but he was just, Dave.
I loved
it. Dave. Richard Flair, and then he got into the real, Richard Flair and the emotion he showed when he was talking about how every time he saw his phone, he thought it was a call from the hospital that Ric Flair passed away. That to me, I was like, wow, and the tears started coming out, and I was like, this might be the best promo this man has ever cut.
I would have to agree. The best babyface promo he's ever cut. And to go into this Triple H Batista thing, super excited. Here's why. Back in 2005 at WrestleMania 21, Triple H's promo with Batista was, Dave, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And Batista was the babyface.
Yeah, that wasn't great. I think they could bring up the 2014 Evolution that what Triple H said. Every time you go away, Dave, you quit. You quit.
But I think at the end of the day, back to what I was saying, I liked the Triple H Batista feud in 05 because it got Batista over with the fans. And at the end of the day, we're going back to that. We're resorting back to that because Batista is biting the hand that feeds him. Batista is biting that hand now.
Yep.
15 years has gone by, and we're 15 years has gone by, and we're back in the saddle with this Triple H Batista thing. But roles have reversed. It's gotten more personal, and it's the perfect recipe for these guys. It's exactly what Batista wanted back in 2016, sorry. And he's getting it now. Triple H, Batista the heel, Triple H the babyface. At first, I didn't know what to think of it, but now I think, man, oh man, I'm excited for this. It's 2005 all over again, buddy.
Oh, I agree, Mike, and I'm sorry I accidentally turned off your mic for 1 second, but I got in what you were going to say, so that's my bad. I apologize. We got to wrap this up, unfortunately, guys, because I got to get out of here today. But, Michael, do you realize we did not take a break this whole show?
We just went on it, man. You went on your talk about the Browns and the Eagles, and then we got into the Steelers and wrestling here. And I'm just really excited for the weeks ahead. We're halfway there, buddy.
And,
halfway there from the semester ending.
Oh, yes, we are. I cannot wait. We are a couple weeks out from spring break. I'm going to get to go home in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that. Like I said, I'm going to be down at the Q next week for the MAC Championship in basketball, so I'm looking forward to that. I almost have the MAC Championship in wrestling because I have to go watch that right now and cover it, which is why we're leaving a little bit early today. And, I can't wait for Fastlane tomorrow. Michael, me and you are going to be watching it together for the first time. Woo! So I am excited for that, and it should be a good show. I don't think it's going to be a very long show. I think it's going to be about the same length as Elimination Chamber, which I'm happy about.
It's only 3 hours. I mean, we don't have 5 hours to spend,
No,
talking at the television set right
10:30, I think. If it starts at 7, I think between 10:15, 10:30 it'll end, which I'm happy about. That's why I said, WrestleMania is great. It's a 5-hour show. I just don't want it to go all night. Like we got class the next day is my thing, and I need time to digest. The night after the Super Bowl and the night of WrestleMania, I can't sleep.
Oh.
Those are the 2 nights I can't sleep, and I hate it because I have to wake up the next day, and I probably have a test or something.
Yeah, of course. That's definitely what happens. Same boat here. But make sure to read Brandon's article on BlackSkullRadio.com.
Yes, I did post it this morning. I posted my Fastlane predictions. I went to this whole spiel. You can read. I wrote about 7 paragraphs about Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. I broke down the entire feud because I thought it was really important to put that in perspective. I kind of went through the other matches as well. I didn't put the kickoff show matches on there because the article was getting long, and to me, I don't know. I don't know if people really watch the kickoff show or not. So I didn't put them on there. But at the end of the day, guys, I'm running a lot of articles for Buck Show Radio in the Stater, and I'm loving my job. But we got to wrap this up today. Michael, appreciate you coming in.
It's good. It was an awesome show, and I'm looking forward to WrestleMania season. I'm looking forward to March Madness season. Our Flashes taking it out of control, baby. So we're ready for it. Thanks, Brandon, for having me on. And once again, tune in to Mitch and Mike Monday from 10 to 12 on blacksquirrelradio.com. It's been a really good string of shows, and I'm just hoping to get up at the level that Brandon's at, because my man here in Brandon's world is on another planet right now.
That's not true. You beat me in the ratings, man. This guy got a top 3 show last week.
Yes, I'm getting ready to announce my social media account. Mitch and Mike, I just want to thank whoever's listening, was ranked number 3 last week in the poll for in the rankings for the top shows on Black Squirrel Radio.
And that's really hard to do, guys, because they have a Monday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. That's a really hard spot, so I'm really proud of you guys.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of the people that support us here on Black Squirrel Radio. Like you always say on your show, you wouldn't be anywhere without our fans, and Mitch and I would not be anywhere without our fans either. So breaking news here on blacksquirrelradio.com that Mitch and Mike is number 3 in the rankings on BSR, and we're going to try to keep it moving. Mitch and Mike and Brandon's World. Brandon, thank you so much for having me on, and woo! I'm ready for Fastlane, baby.
No problem, man. Real quick before we go, I do have an announcement. Next week, 11:30 to 12:30, Enzo Orlando, the host of Pass the Mic. Now, that show's coming up next on Buck Show Radio. We're going to tag team it. So Enzo's going to come on for the half hour of my show. We're going to switch to his show, and I'm going to guest on the first half hour of his show. So it's going to be Fake Patty's Day. It's the day before St. Patrick's Day. It's the day after the MAC Championship. We're going to have a ton of NFL news, which I call the real March Madness, because to me it's more exciting than the NCAA tournament. So we're going to talk about all of that. Next week's show, guys, is going to be packed. I'm going to try to land guests. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fake St. Patty's Day weekend here on Buck Show Radio. I can't wait.
I'm so excited. Ready to roll here on blacksquirrelradio.com.
All right, and with that being said, you guys already know. Follow me on Twitter at real_BWorld. Follow him on Twitter at TV2Mike. As you guys already know, I'm Brandon Lewis from Brandon's World. I say stuff that people don't agree with, but you guys tune in because you are going into my world of sports. So I will see you guys next week on March 16th. The audio podcast should be up soon. And, yeah, Brandon, out.
We all know that Black Squirrel Radio is home to 56 amazing shows.